Executive Director of Communications and Public Relations here on behalf of Victoria ISD. I want to welcome all attendees and the press. We appreciate your presence as we address an issue of significant concern to our school community, the rise of campus threats and social media threats targeting our campuses. We are fortunate to have with us today Representative Sheriff Justin Meyer with the Victoria County Sheriff's Office, District Attorney Constance Philly Johnson with the DA's office, Chief Chuck Young with the Victoria Police Department, Chief George Gomez with the Fire Department. And we have our trustees here with us today. Before we proceed, I'd like to acknowledge that we do have a few trustees here. Please note that in compliance with the Open Meetings Act, not all trustees are present to avoid violations. Those who could be here in person who couldn't be here in person have shared their genuine interest and are joining with us via our live stream. We appreciate our Board of Trustees on their commitment to supporting the district and our students and families. The purpose of today's press conference is to address the ongoing campus threats made by students and social media threats that have impacted our district. These threats not only disrupt the daily operations of our schools, but they also create anxiety and concern for our students, our parents, our staff, and the entire community. We kindly request that all questions be reserved until the conclusion of the press conference. At this time, I would like to introduce Interim Superintendent Meyer, who will provide more detailed information specific to the district's response and the measures that we're implementing.
Good afternoon, my name is Meyer. I'm the Interim Superintendent for VISD and also serve as the Deputy Superintendent. I want to thank you for the opportunity to visit with you and for the support that we have each and every day with our local law enforcement. We could not do this job without them. You know, on any given day, we have just under 13,000 students who attend VISD schools. And on almost every single day, you will see thousands of students coming to school, following the rules, teachers teaching, learning taking place. But when an outlier, when a student comes up and decides to disrupt the learning of others, we take that very seriously. And since the first day of school and the first 6 weeks of school, we've issued 14 parent notifications because of threats students have made. Some of these related to the sharing of information on social media. Sometimes the threat wasn't even in our area. It was an out of state or somewhere else, but it's being shared as gossip as if it's really happening here. We've had 11 students arrested today, and our process is the moment we know of a threat, instantaneously, we as a campus leadership team start working with our law enforcement. We have an amazing partnership with the Sheriff's Office. We have SROs, school resource officers, at our high schools and our middle schools, and they also serve to support our elementary campuses where we have private security. And so under the direction of Sergeant Chris Carter, who is kind of our point person, our supervisor of SROs, immediately the work of collaborating and working together to investigate these threats is important. And the communication going back and forth is taking place minute by minute by minute, because we recognize as a district, parents and community members are already hearing about things happening and they're waiting for a response from the school. But please understand, we also have to give our law enforcement the due diligence to do their investigation as well, so we do not impede their investigatory work by releasing information too soon. As that communication takes place, when we get the clear from law enforcement that they have the information we need, we put out parent notifications. House Bill 3 out of the last legislative session has modified that. Every time there's a threat to harm on our staff or students, we are now required by law to report that to parents. And while that can be a good thing, when parents see multiple notifications coming through, we might get numb to it. Please know every notification is tied to a matter of concern that was resolved, and that we are here to keep our kids safe and keep our staff safe. We've made a number of improvements to our school security profiles over the last several years. We've hardened our facilities. We've included more vestibule improvements, all on our own expense. As you know, Texas does not fund schools to do all of the safety and security that is needed. But we've made it our number one priority to focus our budget on that, and we've never once said no to a safety improvement needed for VISD because of funding. We also work with our law enforcement as we patrol our campuses, always trying to stay on top of what's going on, even if it's outside of school, because some of the threats started outside of school and then they're carried over the next day. So we are almost at 24/7 monitoring and trying to look for anything that might pose a harm to our children so we can address it. There'll be questions about the use of cell phones at our schools. We tightened up our policy last spring, and we have a very, very good enforcement of our cell phone policies in schools, but we don't always get to control what a child posts on their cell phone through social media before or after school, or sometimes in the bathroom, wherever they may be. And so, to as much extent as we can, we control those. So with all the cooperation we have going on and the prevention of incidents, I am going to tell you that within the last hour, we did have 2 new incidents at both of our high schools. One of our challenges as a district is because of the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, we as a district cannot always reveal all of the details we'd like for you to know about what's taking place, but I'm going to ask Sheriff Meyer if he'll address these 2 incidents that have taken place really in the last hour. The Sheriff's Office has a lot more leeway to give information than we can. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Sheriff Meyer, who will provide more information from the law enforcement side.
Good afternoon. Obviously, we're responsible. We have SROs at each high school and middle school. And then we have designated elementary campuses that those same SROs cover. When this stuff is happening, I want y'all to know we work very closely with DPS. It's kind of they help us out in a real time tracing down some of these social media threats and online threats. It's a team effort. All the SROs are on board, the ones in the area. Patrolmen come in from the city and from the county, and it's dealt with as quick as possible. And like I said, our partners with the state help us out on the online side tremendously. We have made 11 arrests. Those were the stats that I had coming in today. We're up to 12 now. Reference the stuff going on. We have an incident at West. Appears to be assaultive in nature. We have one person who was injured and is currently at the hospital with no life-threatening injuries, and another one detained in custody. The victim is 14 and the offender is 15. At the same time, we have a situation at East that appears to be under control. That investigation is still underway right now as we speak. So 12 arrests now in 6 weeks, 2 a week. That's ridiculous. We stay on this course, we may be at 100 by the time the school year is over. So it's something everybody needs to take seriously. You know, these threats, terrorist threat is a Class B, and the false report is a felony. Parents, students, y'all need to understand the magnitude that this has on your life. Not to mention just the resources that are poured into it every day when something like this happens. We encourage the public to speak up. If you see something, say something. Don't share it if it's a post up there, because that's actually an element of the crime. You may become subject to that as well. But reach out to law enforcement, report what you have. If you share it, all you're doing is creating chaos. You're just adding to the situation. And that's what we're trying to eliminate. These kids are here to study, to learn. And this interruption is just, I mean, it's insane. Everybody needs to check themselves on it. I'll be around for questions. I'd like to introduce the District Attorney, Constance Johnson.
Sure. Good afternoon. Constance Philly Johnson. As you are aware, it's the district attorney's role to prosecute cases that are presented to our office after they've been investigated by law enforcement. There's a variety of statutes under which students can be charged if they make threats against schools or on social media, or if they bring weapons to campus. Sheriff touched on some of the legal consequences that ranges from Class B misdemeanors all the way up to third-degree felonies, and we do take all of these instances very seriously. There is an ongoing and a strong partnership between the district attorney's office, local law enforcement, and our school district. We've actually been meeting on an ongoing basis since last spring, and will continue to do so. As the sheriff said, he encourages students and staff and families, anyone that becomes aware of an incident like this, to report it to the appropriate authorities, not to share it unnecessarily and add to the chaos that these situations create when they arise. There is a zero tolerance policy in place. Students will be detained if there's probable cause that they have violated one of these statutes by either bringing a weapon to campus, by making threats, or by sharing threats and creating a situation where there is a disruption of the school day. So please understand that we do take all of these situations very seriously, and I too will be on hand for additional questions at the end of the conference. Thank you.
My name is Chuck Young. I'm the Chief of Police of the City of Victoria. Echoing exactly what the Sheriff and the District Attorney has mentioned, if you see something, you must say something. Don't repost it. Call local law enforcement, call the Sheriff's Department, call the Police Department, call the Crime Stoppers number if you feel the necessity. But my message is mainly to the parents and to the students as well. That it's crucial to remember that kindness, respect, and responsibility start with each of us. Threats, even made in fun or in jest, are no laughing matter and can have real consequences. Parents and caregivers, please speak with your children about the importance of be mindful of their words and their actions. Let's work together to create a safe and supportive environment where we treat each other with kindness, respect, and compassion, both in and out of school. Again, if you see something, please say something. Do not be silent. Ashley.
As we close today, I want to emphasize the critical role that our community plays in ensuring the safety of our schools. We all share a responsibility to be vigilant and proactive. As others have said before me, if you see or hear anything concerning, whether it's on social media or elsewhere, do not hesitate to report it. I would like to again thank our law enforcement and first responder partners for their support and commitment to protecting our students and staff. Our collaboration has been invaluable, and we appreciate their efforts in responding to these threats. For continued updates and other district important information, we ask that you follow VISD.net. We ask that parent and guardians maintain updated contact information. That is how we notify parents when something is occurring on campus, and to follow Victoria ISD and our law enforcement partners on Facebook. At this time, I will open the floor for questions. We ask that you please come to the podium if you have questions, and you'll need to turn the mic on.
So the mic is on. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time today and providing this important information for the residents and citizens here, students here. Our first question is incident specific. Obviously, if you can't, it's perfectly okay, but can you confirm that the incident at West involved a stabbing, Sheriff Meyer?
Yes. No life-threatening injuries, to my knowledge. I don't want to get into the weapons or anything like that, but that's what's under investigation. There's one in custody for that.
Thank you. So I would like to ask a little bit more general about the process, if you will. You said something about the DPS scanning social media. Are there any position-specific, I guess, positions, somebody in particular scrolling through social?
There's people in DPS's criminal investigation unit that are here, they're local, and they work well with officers daily. They're constantly trying to stay ahead of it, so they're a valuable resource, no doubt.
And so, just for my own knowledge, what is that process from they assess a threat to contact? And from that point, what is the next steps of investigation?
As far as any immediate, I mean, each threat can be a little bit different. If it's somebody that we're aware of, obviously we want to locate that subject right away. A lot of times it's an unknown person, and that's where DPS is able to help us track down from, IP addresses and stuff like that to try to figure out where this originated from so that the proper subjects get over it.
Okay, and so at Channel 25, we've reported on a few different incidents at local schools in the past several weeks. One on September 12th, or two on September 12th, Cave Middle School and Victoria West. On September 10th, Victoria East and Patty Welder on September 19th. So could you just explain, a lot of those ended with the conclusion of being false reports. What's the assessment process there from the investigation, and how do you determine that?
What do you mean, the assessment process?
So once the investigation, I know at least, I know the Patty Welder in September 9th resulted in the claim of being a false alarm social media post.
Okay.
And I guess I was just wondering about these.
Yeah, I mean, everything we take seriously, okay? It's not just automatically deemed a false alarm. Those investigations continue well after the fact that an arrest may or may not have been made. And they're still ongoing investigations, but usually there's enough determined on the scene that, we have the subject that we need as far as the offender or suspected offender. And we make an arrest on that right there, and then it continues on. But that handles it for that particular moment.
I believe, well, so what is the usual timeline, from first notice on social media to arrest generally?
That varies. There's times there's a threat the night before that nobody's even aware of. So we're kind of, the clock is running against us, so to speak, when we learn about it that morning. And then there's times on campus where, when we were notified within minutes, we had somebody in custody. So it just varies, depends.
Thank you.
Did we have any questions from any other media partners or any community members that are here today? Okay, with that, we will close out this press conference. Thank you.